want our kids to handle adversity. We want them to be, I don't know if uncomfortable is the best word, but you want
to get some grit.
They want grit. I love the word grit.
That was Jason Warr, our Activities and Athletics Director for the West Ada School District, and he is bringing us some serious truth bombs.
So great to
hear. For the Activities Athletics world,
so
right?
So great to hear just a lot of information, so it's great to have him on as a guest today.
It is great. You're Ken Hyde. I'm Katie Rodenbaugh, and this is the West Ada podcast. We are embarking on episode number 4, and it's been such a fun ride so far. And if you're just jumping in and joining us now, please watch our other episodes or listen to our other episodes. You can find us at westada.org/podcast.
All the information there. Yep. Absolutely.
And all of our all of the regular podcast streaming platforms, and maybe some irregular ones too. I always seem to find the app that nobody else uses, but hey, it's on there. So
it's there. Yep. You can find us. Yeah.
And then if you are watching us, you're watching on YouTube, and if you're just listening to us and want to see our beautiful faces, you can do so on YouTube through West Ada.
A lot of fun. Well, and today's guest, Jason Warr. He is our Athletics and Activities Director at West Ada. Just a wealth of information. He talks to us about how parents can communicate with coaches, kind of the structure of things.
The importance of our athletic trainers, athletic directors, activities directors.
All of it. And the difference between club sports and high school sports and how all of that interplays. And of course, the West Ada Fundraiser. So a ton of great information here for you today. Thank you for joining us. Here is Jason Warr.
All right, and we are here with Jason Warr, our Athletics and Activities Director for the West Ada School District. Welcome, Jason.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Good to have you here, sir.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It's always fun when we get to have one of our colleagues and dive more into your area of specialty, because that's kind of what people do at the district office here is you have, an area of specialty that you focus on, and you get to be our activities and athletics head guy.
Well, thanks. It's good to be here and to be able to share a little bit about what we do and how we try to help kids.
Well, and tell us your background, if you don't mind. I'd love for you to tell our audience, how did you get into this? How did all that begin?
Oh man, well, I was born.
Take us back.
No,
was born at an early age.
At an early age, being in high school, I loved sports, participated in multiple sports, and had the opportunity to go and play college football. And I loved the experience I had in high school. And so my goal, and I really respected my high school coach, Randy Clark, and it turned out I just ended up becoming a teacher, and that's what I wanted to do. That's really the only thing I had the goal to be. And so started as a high school teacher in Hagerman, Idaho in 1996, and my alma mater, and moved up here in 2000 and have been working in public education for that long. And I knew at some point I needed to continue to grow, so I got my master's and got into administration. And but I got the itch in 2008 to continue to coach, and so I kind of jumped back out of administration, went back and became the head football coach at Rocky. And I loved that experience, and I knew administration was where I probably would be good, and I ended up applying for this position after being a vice principal and being a head coach, and I think those experiences helped me, and I think I have the greatest job in the world, because I get to oversee school programs and help kids succeed, and try to be creative in ways to make them to continue to go forward and to get better.
Yeah, and cool. You mentioned activities and athletics, and you get to be over all the programs. Will you help our parents know kind of more what that activities and athletics spans? Because it's not just student athletes aren't just football, basketball, baseball, volleyball. There's a whole bunch that encompasses student athletes.
No, awesome question. We have so many opportunities for kids to participate in extracurricular activities: band, marching band, choir, debate, drama, speech, and then you can throw all the sports that you've kind of mentioned in there. Add in cheer and dance. Kids have different strengths and opportunities and things that they want to be a part of, and I think that's what extracurricular should be offering, is figure out some opportunity that fits a kid's wants, desires, needs, and get them involved in it and let them grow and gain the characteristics and traits that are going to help them later on in life.
Yeah, and when they're involved in activities like that, they're connected with other caring adults. They're connected in a team environment with other students. So it really sets them up for success. And I'm always, I kind of marvel at the high school football games, seeing how many kids are involved. So you have, all the kids on the sidelines playing football, but then you have the marching band performing, and you have flag and color guard performing, and you have dance and cheer, and you just look how many the sheer volume of students that are engaged and involved. It just really warms my mom heart, if you will.
You're so right, and I think the thing is Friday nights are a great experience here in the Treasure Valley and in West Ada, and it's more than the football team. We put great product on the field. Our coaches do a great job. They challenge those kids and they make them better. But if you go to a football game, you get to experience it all. The cheerleaders get to perform. The dance team performs. The band is there. It's the student body is there, that they feel pride in their school. It really is just a well-rounded example of how kids can be a part of a school, a culture, and a climate, which is awesome.
Yep.
Well, and I think one of the things that I've seen, because we're all parents. We've all had parents that were participated in sports and different activities in West Ada. What's the role of an AD? Because you watch what those ADs do, and I'm like, holy cow! It's 10 o'clock at night, and how long have they been here? What does an AD
athletic
do?
director, for those who don't know.
We could even go to activities director,
Yeah.
because they're over it all. And our building activities directors have a difficult job, but it's a very rewarding job. They oversee all of the extracurricular activities in their school, from the things that we just mentioned, from on the activity side to band and choir, to all the athletics on the other side and everything in between. They're going to manage the game setup. They're going to manage, field, helping take care of facilities and making sure that they're upkept. They're going to check grades on kids and eligibility, and then they're going to deal with all the issues or the concerns in between, with whether it's parents or how officials are treated, and or how officials are taking care of at games. Everything in between. So our ADs have a big job, and it's very demanding, but it's also very rewarding.
That's cool.
So now, in my experience, and I don't mean to just bring up football. Football's not the only focus, but that's the world I live in right now with my son. And I really appreciate that the AD and our coaches at Eagle brought all the parents together, and they ran us through kind of a mini conference where we talked about all the different things. We talked about equipment. We talked about safety. We talked about attitude and behaviors and things that, our kids represent the community and, their fellow students, and how to be fine young men. And I just really appreciate that there was that full kind of experience as a parent to know what our kids are going through.
I think in today's day and age, transparency is very important. And it's important because we're in a situation where we're dealing with somebody's most valuable asset. There, more than money, there's not a car that's worth it. And maybe somebody would argue that, but our kids are our most valuable asset. And so transparency and being upfront is very important, because in sports, we're trying to demand such a high level from kids. We're trying to make them better. And sometimes the analogy might be is you might have to break them down to build them back up. And there's such a fine line of doing that. And so I think from the athletic department's perspective, being transparent. Listen, I'm going to love your kid up. I'm going to challenge your kid. I'm going to take them to a different level, and also understanding how to do that. Because we all know there's times where the day and age of maybe cussing out a kid, or just, belittling and demeaning.
And no water.
And no water. You can't have any water.
You don't get any water.
No,
Yeah.
Times have changed. And so I think it's transparency, but still being able to have the trust of parents. Like, we're going to take your kid to a place they haven't been, and it's going to be good. And the rewards at the end are going to be beneficial. And you might not see them tomorrow, but when it comes to raising a family, getting a job, taking on responsibilities, that's what extracurricular activities are supposed to help with, is help prepare them for the future.
Well, and you have both kind of already spoken to this. I mean, we're trying to build these kids up, but what does West Ada look for when they're going out and hiring coaches or activity directors? What are those ingredients that we're really looking for?
It's a whole bunch of things brought together. You want a great communicator. You want somebody that's a leader, that can be an example. We want to act a certain way, and we want to set a standard for our kids. And we bring so many different cultures and groups and family values together at once. Not everybody has the same values. If you go into my house And what we do in our house, it might be different than what somebody else does. And so our leaders or our coaches need to figure out how to balance that and set standards and set parameters that we all can live within and we're all good within. And that's sometimes it's, you might think like, oh, it's easy because we're neighbors and we do things the same way. We might go to the same church. We might do things together, and it's simple. But there might be somebody over here that has a different values and beliefs, and our coaches have to bring those all together, and they have to get everybody buying into the same thing. And so when we look for somebody, I would tell you the perfect person is a strong personality that will listen to others, see perspectives from everybody that's involved, and be selfless and not demanding, but bringing people together for a common theme or cause.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's good. And I can imagine that's a huge task. I think often parents, because I'm guilty of this, I'm in my little bubble, and I think about the schools my kids go to, and I think about the neighborhood I live in. And then I come to work at the district and my mind is blown at how big our district is, how many students and families we serve, and then how many teachers and staff and ADs and coaches it really takes to run our district. And so it's hard to, I can imagine it's a challenge to have that consistency and a consistent message of, who we are and what we represent and that kind of thing.
So, and especially being a district, like you're saying, that it's so big. We have 6 traditional big high schools. You add in Renaissance, and we have a 7th high school that does participate in certain events. And to try and have consistency and to challenge one another to be the best. And, when a Meridian and a Rocky get together and play, they have a love-hate relationship. They love to compete against each other, but is that respect factor there. And so there are so many aspects. And we have games. I want to say the Rocky Meridian football game last year had 7,000 people in it, or over 5,000 plus. And we have a great product and people want to be a part of it. And but trying to manage it and bring everybody together and say, hey, we're all in this together. Let's make this work. That's a daily chore. Like, how do we just keep people going in the right direction and protect the best interest of everybody involved, including kids?
Well, and you've already kind of talked about this, but just full disclosure, so I was a sports reporter for years and years. That's how I started my professional career. So I love sports. And you've talked a little bit about teamwork and how bringing kids together. I love the classroom aspect of coaching, of whether it's the band or the choir or the football team or the basketball team. How important is it to build community, to build teamwork?
It's everything. It is everything. And when you think about, we see the product, parents, everybody that spectators, when they go to a game, they see the final product, and it's for that week. And sometimes it's really good, sometimes it might not be very good, but everything's done in the classroom. And the classroom for us is on the practice floor, or it's in the the practice arena, and it's important for people to realize that it takes time. It's not always a sprint, it's a marathon. It's a 3-year process. Mm-hmm. I've seen teams that they've struggled as freshmen, but they've committed, they've worked on their trade, and they have good habits, and they buy in, and they give of themselves, and they have such great success when they get to be 3 years later. And so I always tell people, don't judge on where we currently are, good, bad, indifferent, ugly, whatever. Don't judge on that. Let's judge when we get down the road and the impact it's had.
That's awesome. Will you we're about ready for a break here, but if you'll take us out on maybe a most memorable or a highlight of your career to this point.
Well, I think for me, I got to go to the parent side of it, and just the impact that extracurricular activities has played for my kids. I have 4 kids, great kids that are, they're awesome, but they also were challenging in their own ways. My 2 older daughters both played softball at Rocky Mountain, and they loved it. My son, he probably had a pretty special experience in that he once stayed as the starting quarterback at Rocky in 2020, and it was unique because it was the COVID year and they didn't have fans there.
Oh, gosh.
And just the adversity that they faced and just the opportunity. And man, they faced challenges that nobody ever could imagine or experience. And then my youngest daughter, who's a senior at Oahu, who was a part of the volleyball program and enjoyed it. And then she saw where her path was going, and she kind of wanted to try something else. And now she's an athletic trainer, and
cool.
she's in yearbook. Those are memorable to me. My kids have had great experiences in high school. It's not always, they haven't always been the starters. They haven't always been the best kid that's been there, but I've seen them grow and mature. And so for me, to see the system work and them to go through it and to benefit, and my oldest is 27 now, and them to be successful, that's what's memorable. Is they've had great experiences, and I think that extracurricular activities played a role in helping to define who they are and help make them who they are.
How different is it? How different is it to be a parent at an activity or a game versus being a coach? How different is that?
Well, I'll give you an example, and I'm not proud of it, but when Kobe was a freshman at Rocky, I went to a game, and it was my first year in this job, and I thought the official made a bad call, and I yelled something like, "That's a terrible call."
I've never done that.
And I remember a parent turning and looking at me and saying, like she didn't really say anything, but it was more like, "Do you know what your role is?" And at that point, I realized, man, that's not good. But I learned from those opportunities, and so I think the emotional part, we want our kids to be successful,
of course,
but also being in administration, seeing how hard it is to be an official, and me not to have some preconceived notion that they just want to gyp us or they want to do us wrong. I think you kind of get that perspective. And so it's, I think it's good to put it together and understand the parent's perspective, understand the coach, administrator's perspective, and then just having respect for all of it.
Yeah. Not always an easy task. Well, okay, as Katie mentioned, let's take a quick break. But when we come back, we're going to delve into, one of the things we want to delve into is the West Ada Fundraiser, which has been awesome. But we'll take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
The second annual West Ada Activities and Athletics Fundraiser is underway. This year's prizes are legit, including a 2024 Chevy Equinox courtesy of Kendall Ford, valued at $40,000. Tickets are $75 each, and if you buy 3, you'll get an additional ticket for free. For all the details, visit westadafundraiser.com. The link is also available in the episode description.
Okay, Jason, here's something that I think about all the time as a parent. Club sports are huge around here. It seems like every kid is in their high school sport, plus their club sport, plus their little league. It's almost overwhelming to me, and I get tired thinking about it, and I see our kids working so hard. So what do you, as the activities and athletics director for the district, what are some of your thoughts on club sports and high school sports and all those things?
Athletics have really evolved over the last 10 plus years with club sports. And I think we should embrace it. I think we are challenging kids in different ways that we've never been able to do. Like when I look back to 30 years ago or 25 years ago when I played, these opportunities would have been awesome when we didn't have them. But I also say that with an understanding to parents to have a balance of how we're pushing our kids and what we're doing with our kids. They can be great experiences. Go back to my own kid. I think the competitive level and the success they had in high school through sports kind of started through, 4th grade, 5th grade club basketball, Boise Slam, going to Portland and playing against a higher level that we never could have. Mm-hmm. But I also think about the time and effort and money we put into, and the realistic aspect that not everybody can afford that.
Right.
So I think we should embrace it. I think we really have to have a good balance between how do we balance regular season and how do we balance the high school or our school experience, and they can all serve a purpose. And I think as parents, we just need to really keep that in perspective of how to not overextend one way or the other. And when you're in high school, playing high school sports or middle school sports, the coach should demand of you to be like, hey, this is our expectation. And there should be respect both ways. And that's the one thing I think we really have to keep in line and realize that there is a balance, and you just have to figure it out.
What? Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I think about the kids, their bodies are growing. They're teenagers, and rest and recovery and that kind of thing.
Repetitive injuries, all of that's part of the thing, right? Yeah.
And also, what is the motivating factor? Like, what is driving you as parents and families to commit all this time, money, and effort into these sports? Is it the expectation? I mean, naively or like maybe without thinking about it, I think like, oh, great, my kid's going to get a D1 scholarship. He's going to get everything paid for, But really, like, what is the likelihood of that? And what is your focus? What is your driver for doing those kinds of things, keeping it in perspective?
If we can get parents to really realize what the true intention of playing sports or being a part of a team is, which is to become a good teammate, to learn to work with others, to be committed to a craft or a trade, to understand that we're going to face failures. I think we want our kids to succeed so bad that sometimes we forget that failure is what makes
part of the process.
It's part of the process, and we forget that part.
Yeah.
And this is Jason Warr, the parent. I look back at my son, who was probably a little different than my daughters, just because of the competitive and the group of friends he had. As we traveled everywhere, we did a lot of things, and he had some great successes. But I also think some of the injuries he fought through in high school were because we overextended him a little bit. And it's funny because he's been away for a couple of years and hasn't been playing sports, and now he's back, and he's like, he feels great. And I think it's because he's rested his body. And hindsight 2020, but I'd go back and I'd probably say, don't worry, let's take off this year. It doesn't matter if you're a sophomore and you're not going to play on varsity. Yeah. Maybe it's finding out what those other experiences are. Is it golfing? Is it fishing? Is it hunting? What do you like? And figure out what the balance is.
Right.
Well, and I'm old school, man. I'm kind of what you're talking about. I am old school. I believe in doing all the sports, but that's not the way it really is anymore. But heck, 20 years ago, I would talk to Division I coaches, and they were like, I want to see that kid that does it all. I don't know if that's 20 years ago. I don't know how much that's changed, but I still hear coaches say, no, I want well-rounded, balanced out. Is that a thing?
Oh, I think it is, and I think it's hard. We're in a day and age where we have a lot of kids that attend our schools that are from a young age have been participating in sports, and then it gets smaller because the competition grows and there's less opportunities. But I think the opportunity, I would encourage people, play as many sports as you possibly can and find that balance. And sometimes they roll from one sport to the other, but I think a change of sports is a good thing.
Yeah.
And then eventually you might specialize as you get older, and you'll start to realize, hey, maybe there is a chance for my kid to go on to the next level.
Yeah.
And there's a chance for kids to go and participate at the next level. It might be really big, like, hey, I can go to UCLA or Michigan or somewhere like that, or I might be able to go to a smaller school that gives me an opportunity to participate. It's about the experience, and it's about those things that they're looking for. But my advice would be is don't base everything off of it like, how do I get my kid to be the starting quarterback at Boise State? Because I think we missed the boat on what we truly want our kids to get. And in the end, it'll work out, and we want to enjoy the process.
Well, and I'm neck deep in this right now, and my son, we resisted club sports for a long time, and then towards the end, my son and daughter are involved in club sports now, but he's just starting a Division III basketball program, so it's Division III, but it really is scholar athlete there, and it's a cool experience. To your point, how nice is it to be able to continue on, not at Michigan necessarily?
Right. It's not D1 or bust. Yeah. I mean, there's lots of opportunity.
I think it's where you put the priority and what you want to do, and what are your goals out of it. And I know Cam, and the opportunity, if he can get a great educational experience out of it, and he gets to experience the higher level of competition, how awesome is that? And that's how it should be, and that's how we should look at it. But just put it in perspective. Keep it in perspective, and like, Boise State's not calling my kid, this is a total failure. Well, no, it's not.
Right.
Just that's it. We love our kids so much, we want them to succeed, and we just got to keep it into perspective.
Hard to do sometimes, but it absolutely is important.
And success looks different for everyone. So,
really does.
100%.
We talked about repetitive use injury and things like that, but what about keeping our kids safe on the field, on the courts? What do we do? What's our concussion protocols, things like that?
Well, I think we've evolved over time in the well-being of our kids, and I hate aging myself, but remember, like, you're not getting water breaks. We're way past that.
Right.
Go take a salt tablet. We're way past that
Right.
point. I think
Right.
here in West Ada, some things that we do a great job of is we have great athletic training programs.
I have to just say, I had no clue. My son's a sophomore, and I had no idea that they're like legit. They're legit. They have, great skills, great training, great certifications, and they really are there to help our student athletes.
I'm not sure we showed them enough appreciation. So shout out athletic trainers in West
absolutely.
Ada.
100%.
But what they do for our kids and how they manage, we have schools that will have over 1,000 participants this year in all sports, and spread that out over the year. But the demand in our athletic training programs, but it's also an educational opportunity. They have classes that kids come in and help them, and so we provide a safe environment. And concussions is a great thing. We have seen concussions drop over the last few years. How we handle and how we educate people on how to handle them. And then the realization of, like, when is it too much for a kid or somebody that's had trauma to the head. I think we've come so far in that, and I think educating people, making them aware, having consistency, having our coaches have awareness. Is somebody acting differently? Is there something going on? Whether it's concussions, we could throw in heat-related illnesses that we deal with and stuff.
Sure,
and
smoke,
hydration. All those things. So I think we've done a great job of providing that, and we're playing sports. There's some high impact contact stuff that happens, and I hate to say the word, but so sports can be violent. Football can be violent. I mean, collisions and stuff. Lacrosse.
Don't tell my mom heart that. I say
don't
it
tell
every
your mom
Friday.
heart that.
All of that.
But we also take preventative measures, and we're proactive in training and how we do it, that we can put our kids in a safe environment and help them to have success.
Well, kind of shifting gears a little bit, you touched on this earlier, but sportsmanship. I mean, this is probably the biggest thing. I mean, and same way, as a parent, sometimes you find yourself. I'll give myself speeches before the game. I'm going to sit there. I'm going to be
keep
positive.
my mouth shut.
I'm going to clap. I'm not. But sportsmanship is huge, and we've all seen the knucklehead factor. I've been a part of the knucklehead factor. I'm not going to lie.
So
how important is it to be a good sport?
It's so important right now, and it's putting everybody in alignment with what is our true intention. What are we trying to give to everybody that's at a game? We want to put a good product on the field or on the court that people can appreciate their efforts and their abilities. And we have some kids that can do some amazing things. We have kids that are doing, that are taking it to the next level and competing at a high level. And so we put a good product on the field, but then we also have to trust the fact that we have kids, or we have other aspects that need to play a role. Parents with, officials, parents in what they need to do. Everybody plays those roles, and we need to understand that you're all a part of it. And take the emotional side out of it. I know it's easier said than done, but take the emotional side out of it and understand that everybody has a job. It's not going to be perfect. Just like when your kid doesn't complete the pass or make the shot, the official might miss a call. No one call is going to make a difference in the game. And we get so hooked up on that. And let's just put it in perspective of what we're trying to get out of it. And in the end, it will help all of us. And before I yell that, like, that's a terrible call, just count to 2, 3, take a deep breath, and let the play roll on and see what happens.
When we do have, I mean, it trickles down into the fact that it's really hard to get officials. I mean, we have a shortage everywhere because who really wants to go out there and do something they love but be heckled by it constantly, you know? And so if we can maybe mind ourselves a little bit better, have more self-control, not only is that modeling good behavior for our kids and our students, but it's also, part of our community. These referees are part of our community.
Okay, great point. And it's the part that we need to teach our kids. There's only certain things in lives that we have control over. And one time, I think that's one thing, is sometimes we get so upset about the things we don't have control over, and we focus our attention there. And I think our great coaches, they get it, understand, like, I don't have control over that.
Yeah.
We need to protect our kids. We need to keep that in mind as we're doing it. But when we're like, that's not a holding, and we're focused on that, we're not figuring out how to control the variables we can control to help address the situation.
Right. And getting over adversity. I mean, that's a huge thing to learn.
It is.
Okay. So getting over adversity. We have really awesome West Ada Activities and Athletics fundraiser. We do every year. This is our second year. Sports are very expensive. You see all the equipment, the uniforms, all that stuff. So why don't you tell us about the second annual fundraiser? No,
I'm glad we get to talk about this, because I think there's it's a great opportunity for our schools, but we also need people to understand what the intention was. Yeah. A couple of years ago, Idaho Central, who's a great partner of ours, came to us and said, we want to help put video boards in all your schools. And they sold us on the fact that it was a way to generate revenue and to like spice up a game environment, which really did.
Absolutely.
They're nice boards. Yeah, they're great.
It's great. The idea came about, like, instead of going and asking the parents, hey, you have to pay $100 for this and another $200 for that, how about we try to create a fundraiser that we could generate revenue for all our programs to help lower costs. Mm-hmm. So from a district perspective, I thought it was easier for the district to come in and find some great partners that could support us. And I'll throw a couple out, hey, Idaho Central started this. Kendall Auto Group has been a good one. Last year, Bishop's was a great sponsor. We have KM Engineering, CM Company. We have companies that have sponsored us. CapEd's been a great one for us. But the idea was to create a raffle that was a primary fundraiser for programs. They could sell the tickets, and all of the money from that ticket, let me say that again, all of the money from that ticket goes to the program that it was that sold it.
So let's clarify this more, because I didn't understand that as a West Ada parent. Last year I bought a ticket from my son's girlfriend because I'm like, I'll support her program. Right. And my son's like, hey, how about me? How about the football program? So you can actually indicate when you buy the ticket what program you want that money to go to. Yeah, and as we've adapted this year, we're like right now we're doing a fall fundraiser. So any fall sport you should be able to go to the website, westadafundraiser.com.
We'll include that in the show notes too.
And so you can click on it. You could go to Eagle High School, click on football, and then you could put your son's name in there, and then they would get an acknowledgement where it came from. Some of the programs are saying, hey, I'd love everybody to sell 3 tickets. If you sell them, I'll buy you a sweatshirt. Right. But all that money then eventually will go back to the football program, and our goal is to help offset cost. One of my biggest issues with fundraising is we need partners that will come in and help us out. And there's companies that fundraise. And a pet peeve of mine is when we raise $10,000 and you only take $6,500 of it into the program, I want people gave $10,000 for that program to get it. And I want to give them as much money as possible, because then we don't have to ask for as much money. Right. And so that's been one of my things that I've really tried to work on, that we get the best return for our programs, and then we don't have to ask for as much. That transparency part, it's expensive to run high school programs. The way our funding system works in the state, we get only so much money per kid, and Dr. Bub, our executive team, that money goes for educational purposes. We get great support from our district, but there's limits on how much money you can really give to an extracurricular and not take away from a classroom need. And so that's why the fundraiser is so important. Let's help programs out, lower costs for parents, and make it reasonable for kids to play sports. As a parent, for me, it is a lot of money for our family pay the fees and all the things, like we have to plan for it. But also in the scheme of things, it's a lot less money if my kid is occupied after school, learning good skills, learning character, and those kinds of things. It's a great investment with a huge return on investment. I love hearing that, because those are the positives that we hear is we are doing good things for kids, and we're keeping them involved. And if they're involved in extracurricular, they're staying out of maybe stuff that gets them in trouble. Right. It gives them purpose. It gives them intention. And so I can't put a dollar value on what that value is, but we want to make it as reasonable as possible. Right. But that was the purpose behind this raffle fundraiser.
Yeah, well, and I did a story last year with the choir over at Rocky High School and Rocky Mountain, and it's not just the athletic teams, but to hear about some of the travel stuff that they were dealing with, it really is all the programs.
We can help these programs to lower their costs and help them achieve goals or aspirations that they want, to be able to go on a trip and to take some kids that maybe they couldn't afford it. Maybe they wouldn't have that opportunity. This gives them that opportunity. that's what it should be about.
That's very fun. Well, it's time to take a quick break. But when we come back, this year's theme for West Ada is attitude over adversity. And I mean, you find that in the classroom, you find that in extracurriculars. I really want to delve into that with you a little bit more when we come back. Yeah.
We're excited to let you know that Remind is now available district-wide. If you haven't used it before, Remind is a classroom communication tool that makes it easy to stay involved with your students' learning. Remind is free to use, and you can send and receive messages on any device. To learn more, we've linked the parent onboarding guide in today's episode description.
Extracurricular activities are huge. There's a lot of moving parts and pieces, equipment, travel, all that stuff. What does it take? Share with I think it's helpful for our parents to know, like our community members are involved in these kinds of things, but what does it take to keep these programs running?
Well, I'm going to go to a couple programs we really haven't even talked about, and just the demand. And let's go to band, like marching band. Have you ever seen to a high school and you see a big trailer out front that says Warrior Marching Band or Rocky Mountain or Eagle Thunder Band? And,
all of it.
They just to be able to take that much equipment to manage, 70 to 100 participants at one event. To be able to choreograph it, to put it together, it takes the village. It takes everybody.
Right.
And so I think it's important for people to realize that parents play a vital role in the success of our programs and our teams. And so marching band was there. I mean, I've seen wrestling programs where they have to take wrestling mats to the Idaho Center. And so we need help or support to do that. Cheer mats for cheer competitions. And then, when you just talk about a competition, Rocky Mountain football this week went to Coeur d'Alene. They took 3 teams to Coeur d'Alene, which was, to get the buses to organize
It's a lot of moving parts.
It's a lot of moving parts. And I think that's where parents play a vital role. The AD plays a vital role in helping to get the transportation, but you have booster clubs or your groups that will support, and you're bringing, sack lunches, and who's picking up the food after the game, and who's making sure the kids are getting fed and that they have everything, who's communicating that. So many pieces and parts that go together. So I think people should appreciate just the magnitude of trying to pull off some of these events and how big, they can be.
Right.
And also have a little grace when it's not always like, I didn't know at 2:00 they were doing this. And so, but I think our veteran advisors and coaches, they kind of have a system down, and the ADs have a good system that can help get us through those situations.
Well, something we've talked about a couple times on different podcast episodes are empowering our kids to be young adults and to help and carry their own weight.
Yeah.
So there's a place for that, for our kids to, talk to their coaches about certain things, to manage their schedules, because we don't want to be parents who are doing it all for our kids. So there's a balance, right? Like we want parents to volunteer and help with things, but not be overzealous.
I love that message, and I think it's very important. We want our kids to handle adversity. We want them to be, I don't know if uncomfortable is the best word, but you want
to get some grit.
They want grit. I love the word grit.
Absolutely.
And we want them to be in a situation where they have to maybe collaborate with their teammates to figure out best practices. They can, how do we handle a situation that's not always going to go in the best way for us, and how do we work through it? And so I think from a parent standpoint, kind of where we're kind of guiding with this is help your kids understand how to deal with adversity and give them skills or tools to help them. This is how you would address it. If you have an issue, how do you communicate with your coach? If you have an issue in a classroom, how do you go in and talk to your teacher and realize, everybody's outlook on it and where they're coming at. I want you to be able to do this from the classroom standpoint. If you're not doing it, how are you going to follow up and make sure that we get it done?
Sure.
In the end, it's all about how do we make ourselves better. And so that's just keep that in mentality and in perspective and run with it, and not think like, oh, my kid's not, they're facing adversity, let me jump in. No, let's teach them. They're going to learn from it. They're going to be better off.
Well, and you said this earlier. You didn't say it quite this way, but back in the day when I was coaching like Pee Wee, hey, I'm like, hey kids, you can only control 2 things: your attitude and your effort. Yeah. How important is for us to teach that to our kids and us to understand that as parents too?
So it's so important, because they're going to be in experiences when they get older where they're not going to get the job, or they're going to have a conflict with their spouse, or there's going to be issues at work. And if we always protect, or we always jump in the way to help take care of that, they'll never work through that process. And part of the beauty of life is working through the process and seeing what we can do. We have the ability to do way more than we probably assume or think we can, and we just have to let that process work. And that's the part I think is so important for us to realize.
I'm curious what your take is on quitting a commitment.
Oh,
that might be a big thing. I might have opened a huge can of worms.
No, that's a thing.
I'm just curious. When is it is it ever okay to say, you know what, we can call this and you don't have to go back, or you committed to this team, stick it out for the rest of the season and don't do it again if you don't want to?
I think the latter. I think we need to be in a situation that if we start something, we should finish it. If we have concerns or issues, let's address it. Let's be upfront. We're not always going to agree on everything.
Right.
And I'll put in the example of the coach has a perspective that they have a certain job to do and they want to put the team in the best way. My kid might not be the person that fits in that mold or that spot. But then I need to, as a parent, I would encourage my kid to figure out what role you can be. Is it, can I get one play in there that would make a difference? I think back to the Boise State days under Coach Pete, and I had the opportunity to work at Boise State a couple of years, and he was openly would say, I don't care who the kid is, treat them all like they're 5 stars, but demand of them. And because one, you never know who else you're going to deal with down the road. And I can promise you, Coach Pete could get after kids and he could demand it, but he treated them all the same. And so I think from that perspective is you go communicate with people, you work through adversity, you might not always agree, you respect the other person's perspective, but in the end, there's going to be one person that's going to have to make a decision, and this is the best interest of ours. Have our kids work through those processes. It's not always going to be perfect, but have them work through the process.
And that's important. Well, and listen, we're all about education here, and I love that the field of play or the band room or the choir room, that is a classroom. That is where kids are learning. How important is it to learn in that arena?
Oh, I think we open a door, another avenue for them to grow and develop. And just like when we go into a classroom and we're taking on a subject matter and we're trying to gain mastery or have a better understanding of what we're doing, we do the same thing on the floor and on the court or when we're practicing. We think about like musicians that are at the highest level. They weren't at that level because it just naturally came to them. Some people have natural ability and will take them further. But I think of, like a Tom Brady who had success, but there was some inner burning that would help him to say, nope, it's not good enough. And they just keep going. And that's what I think we have to remember is the opportunity to practice is to make us better, and it's going to challenge us. It's going to really put us in a situation that we kind of feel like, oh, can I do this? And then we find out we can do more, and then we take to that next level, and then the sky's the limit. And that's why I think the opportunity to be a part of a team, don't base your current situation on what's happening right there, because it could be really good, and then I don't have to work as hard. Or it could be really bad, and I'm like, oh, I'm not good enough, and I quit. Don't base it on that. Base it on where you can be, and you'll find out that growth and development will happen in so many ways, and it will help you down the road and in other aspects of life.
That's good.
That's good stuff.
Really
we've talked a little bit about some of the negative things, overinvested parents, bad sports. And again, I've been a part of those things. I've seen it on every level, but there's so many, and we've talked about this too, but so many great things. I watch my daughter's volleyball team and the self-esteem that is built in that arena. What are some of those things? Self-esteem particularly. What's so great about sports in that arena?
I think as we see kids grow and we see the confidence that they have in their abilities, there's times where they never had that confidence. They didn't have an understanding of what they could do. And as they grow and they develop, I mean, those are the special things about sports and athletics. To see a kid that maybe couldn't, produce or help a team,
Right.
And then to be able to grow into those sports, and just like your daughter's volleyball team, for her to feel that success of like, oh my gosh, I'm helping this team and I belong and I'm a part of it. Those are things that are going to help catapult those kids to the next level of just life. And I think we always want to keep it in the same frame, and we think like, oh, I'm good at volleyball, so I should be good at volleyball at the next level. I'm good at volleyball, but now I'm going to be a good spouse. I'm going to be a good friend. I'm going to be good at work. Those are the things that it translates to. And the crazy thing is we just don't figure that out till probably about 4 or 5 years later.
Right.
So
I'm still working on that stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Jason, I think this has just been awesome. Lots of information for our parents to gather, our community members, support activities in athletics, support our West Ada fundraiser this fall and spring, right? It's going on all year.
Yep. We'll finish this one in October, and then we'll start one for winter sports, and then one for the spring sports.
Okay, so I'll cover all three.
All three.
It's going to be a lot of fun. And again, we will put that the link to the website in our show notes, and it's going to be a fun year.
Oh, it's already started out, and these are great experiences, and I would encourage people to come out to games and to experience them. And I'm not just saying a football game. They're fun. Soccer, volleyball, cross country, tennis. We offer so many opportunities, and I think you look at lifetime sports that people can play and participate in.
Golf.
Golf.
Yeah.
We have kids in our district that are going to Texas A&M, and we have kids that are going all over the country to play golf. And I see we have a former student that's at Cincinnati playing golf. We have kids doing amazing things, and it started at a point and they grew, and that's. We should celebrate that, and we should recognize it, and we should keep challenging ourselves to keep going that direction.
Well, can't thank you enough for your time. I always ask this, and it's kind of a throwaway question sometimes, but is there anything that we haven't asked you that we should be asking you?
I just appreciate the opportunity to come on here, and athletics and extracurricular activities can be a beautiful thing, but they can also be a contentious thing when people are like, my kid didn't get out of it what I thought they should have.
Sure.
But that's life. And so please just understand that, the process is part of this. And
the process is probably the most important
part. The process
part.
is probably
the
most
refining.
important part.
Yeah.
Well, and I don't want to draw this out because I know we're wrapping up, but there's I'm not a big tennis guy. I'm horrible at tennis. But there's this famous quote as you walk out onto the center court at Wimbledon. Rudyard Kipling's "If" poem. Learn what you learn from victories. Learn what you learn from defeats, and don't believe those things. That's the thing, right?
That's exactly what it is, and we're developing people to be great citizens and to be a part of society and to help do good things to make our country and the area Treasure Valley better. That's what should be our goal, and that's where we should move. And I think we're going the right direction. People can be cynical. We're at a time where everybody's like, oh, we can see the negative, see the positive in people, and let's move forward and let's rock and roll. West Ada is great. Let's keep it that way.
That's awesome.
That's right.
Can't thank you enough.
Thanks, Jason.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for being here.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much to Jason Warr. What a great conversation and just so many nuggets from him.
Yeah, he brings a really great perspective, having been the coach, the teacher, the athletic director, activities director, but also a parent. And so his perspective is really unique and special that I think we can all learn from.
Big thanks to him. Thank you for coming on. And thank you for joining us today as well. If you don't mind, please subscribe to the podcast, leave us a review. We want to know what you're thinking. And as we say every time, we really want to know
we do.
What you think. So shoot us an email, communicate@westada.org. We'll leave that email address in the show notes. But we want, you guys, this episode is for you. We really want to have the conversations that will be most beneficial to you. So give us a shout out.
Please do. And coming up in our next episode, we get to interview Marcus Myers. He's our Chief Academic Officer here at West Ada School District, and really just kind of educating parents. I've been a parent in the district for a long time. We talk about this, but really, how is curriculum selected? What does that process look like? How do we decide on standards for our kids, and what the academic calendar looks like? All these kind of nuances that, as a parent, I just kind of naively thought happen, right? Like it all falls into place. But really, there's a lot of strategy and planning and thought that goes into how we best educate our kids.
It's huge. And to listen to Marcus in our board meetings and describing all of the minutiae that goes into that, I can't wait to hear from him, because there's a lot of moving parts. Even if we're just talking about, again, the calendar.
Right.
For him to be able to kind of go through that and help us understand those things is going to be very
teacher
beneficial.
PD, continuing education, all kinds of good stuff. So I'm really looking forward to that conversation. But for now, thank you for joining us on the West Ada podcast, and we'll see you next time.